Hello and welcome to the Infinity Bros Podcast, the only podcast that is perfectly balanced as all things should be. My name is Isaac Edlin. I am your host tonight, and I have a couple friends with me. Number one is my good friend and fellow Infinity Bro, Zayne Ellis.
Hi. Happy to be here, ready to talk about some stuff. I'm here and Robbie's not. Mark it.
That is true. There were some rumors going around that you got in a plane crash, and that's why you hadn't been on the podcast for so long. But it seems that those rumors are now dispelled. Is that true?
Well, what if I was just like DB Cooper? The plane didn't crash. I just jumped off of it.
Wow.
I mean,
so are you saying that you were DB Cooper?
Have you ever seen me and DB Cooper in the same room at the same time? Just saying. I'm just saying.
I can't refute that. So, all right. Well, there we go. Zayne is possibly DB Cooper. But besides Zayne, we also have a very special guest with us. It is JT from Beyond the Fandom Podcast. How are you doing today, JT?
Well, after that nice intro, Zayne, I'm just wondering now, are you Loki as well? Because, Loki was DB Cooper. I mean, look, I'm in the presence of someone famous now.
Man, you're opening my eyes to who Zayne really is right now, and it's a little disturbing. So
I can neither confirm nor deny that, JT.
Might as well throw Batman in there too. I mean, nobody's seen Batman and Zayne in the same room. So
that's a great point.
This is true. But no, thank you, gentlemen, for having me on. It's definitely one that has been long overdue. Very excited. I love listening to y'all's stuff. Isaac, you mentioned it earlier on the Patreon show. Like, our podcasts are like two different podcasts, but also very, very much the same. So I'm very happy to be on, and definitely ready to talk some stuff.
Yeah, so if you want to get to know JT a little bit better, you can go click on the link in the show notes to hit up the Patreon version of this episode. Uncut just gets wild most of the time on the Patreon, especially if Mark is on the podcast. Not today, but we still got to know JT quite a bit and talked about the history of Beyond the Fandom, formerly East Coast Avengers. And it was just a fun time hanging out, talking about Invincible trailer dropping and season 2 coming late 2023. So if you're interested in any of those topics, make sure to check out that. And JT, I would like to say we've got a few things to get to, but the first thing that we do with any guest on the Infinity Bros podcast is put them through the Infinity Gauntlet.
Ooh, okay. I'm ready.
So JT, we put all of our guests through the Infinity Gauntlet, which is a series of questions, one from each Infinity Bro. And if you pass the Infinity Gauntlet, you get to continue on and be on the Infinity Bros podcast with us. We currently have not kicked anybody off yet. So I think you're sitting okay, but it remains to be seen. So
if you fail, you're just going to see me disappear from the camera, and then suddenly I'll just show up behind you, and then your camera just goes black.
Camera's black. We're lost audio for the rest of the episode. It's just me and Zayne talking.
Yeah, it's going to be a very short episode.
But anyways, so we will go ahead and get started with that. Just answer them to the best of your abilities. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. You'll do just fine. I have the most confidence in you. All right, this is from Infinity Bro Max. In an apocalypse, would you rather have an unlimited amount of chapstick or an air conditioner that is solar powered?
Ooh.
Unlimited amount of chapstick or a solar powered air conditioner?
Give me the air conditioner, and I'll explain a little bit. I rarely use chapstick. I do. My wife would say that she uses it the most out of the two of us. But I need my AC, man. I need my AC. So I'm type 1 diabetic, so I need some kind of like things to cool me down. So like that's definitely one of, especially in that certain time. You would need something to just kind of be calm, be chill. So give me the AC.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I'd go with you there too. Like AC, and we're in Minnesota, but like in the summers it gets pretty hot and muggy. if I were down south, I don't know if I'd be able to live without AC. Honestly, like I don't know if I could do it. Like
I'll tell
that's
you.
just
I'll tell you this right now. It is January 21st, and we had a high today of 65.
Shut up.
yeah.
I wish.
Shut
I
up.
wish
Sounds
I
kinda
was-
Just stop. Just stop. You're
Stop.
gonna make Zane mad.
Stop.
Come on.
Just stop.
Up here in de Nort, it's it's probably been like 10s, 20s most of the winter, but routinely hits below zero.
Not bad,
And
not
winter
bad.
lasts from October to March, basically. So fun times. And things happen to people, like Jeremy Renner gets run over by and snowplow. Snowplows are very dangerous around here. So
Absolutely.
yeah, it's not ideal, but like, hey, we make the most of it. We made the Infinity Bros podcast, and
There
here
we
we
go.
are. So
There we go.
all right, question number 2. This is from Infinity Bro Mark. Would you rather your breath smells like sardines, or you always smell like BO? Breath smells
Ooh.
like sardines, or always smell like
Whoa.
BO?
So I'm probably gonna go with the breath, because then I just don't have to talk to anybody. I mean,
That's true.
I mean, if you just smell like BO, then you have to walk around and like kind of. It's always
And people
there.
get whiffs of you when you're walking by, even if
Exactly.
you don't. Yeah.
Exactly. So
At least,
like,
yeah. Then you can be kind of become a recluse, and like people think you're weird, but at least like you don't smell terrible.
Exactly. And on top
There
of
you go.
that, just to double down, it'd be kind of cool to learn sign language. So like, I wouldn't have to talk. I could do sign language. There you go. And then when I have the ability to talk, then I could do that around people on the phone, text. I mean, yeah, I would do the breath.
There you go. All right, Zane, go ahead and fire off your Infinity Gauntlet question.
All right, JT, my question for you is, if animals could talk, what animal do you think would be the rudest?
Ooh.
That's a good one. I like it.
Okay.
Zane, you're on fire lately. Jeez.
That's a good one.
Hey,
That's a good one.
it's a talent.
That's a good one. All right, so hear me out on this one. I think a flamingo would probably be the rudest, because they do give off that they give off that diva-ish, like, I'm better than everyone, standing on one leg, dipping their their beaks into the water. Like, I can just see them being just absolutely rude to anyone that walks around. So I'm gonna go with flamingo.
Them and peacocks, man. Yeah, them and peacocks would be just like cockiest, like nastiest things to talk to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
I can see it. Yeah.
Good one. All right, here we go. This is from Infinity Bro Robbie. Would you rather fight one Jedi or 100 Smurfs? One Jedi or 100 Smurfs?
That's an easy 100 Smurfs.
I think so too.
I played soccer in high school, so like.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, I can just kick him. The Jedi, I can't even get near him with the Force, and if I don't have a weapon, like, it's game over from there.
Right,
Yeah.
like you basically have no chance. I think it would be a harder question if it was like 1,000 Smurfs.
Yeah,
like 100 is like pretty like no brainer. Yeah. Like you'd pick the 100, but if it were 1,000 Smurfs, would that change your mind?
You would probably have to go to 1,000,000 for me to consider fighting a Jedi.
Well, how about this though? We'll go 1,000 Smurfs, but there's zombie Smurfs.
Oh,
so if you get bit, you become a zombie.
Ooh. Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
That's
we're just modifying Robbie's
question.
Yeah. See, I still feel like my better chances with the Smurfs, because again, with the Jedi, like they have the Force. They can just force pull you, saber to the head, you're dead. Like, I mean, it's just it's just like that. So I'm sticking with the Smurfs.
You probably There's just not a lot of like options when we're like a normal people going up against a Jedi.
Right.
Smurfs, at least you feel like you could have a chance, even if you probably would die in the end. Like you could at least fight,
Yeah. Exactly.
I get that. All right, last question here. This is from me, obviously. In a different multiverse, Beyond the Fandom is actually a superhero team.
Ooh.
What are the powers of you and your teammates?
Okay. All right. That's wow. Okay. So for those who don't know, Beyond the Phantom has six, just like the Infinity Bros. We have myself, we have Darren, we have Josh, Christian, and wait, Dom, Christian, Josh, Darren, and Hunter, and then myself. So yeah, six. Sorry, I had to in my head.
There you go. I do that all the time with the Infinity Bros. I'm
Mhm.
like, what? Zane, Max, Mark,
Who am I
Jarrett.
missing? Yeah.
Forgetting one. What is that? Robbie. Oh, Robbie. Dang. I
So
get that.
so I would say we'll start off with Darren. Darren is a pilot, and so his would be flight. His superpower would be the ability to fly.
Yes.
Dom, if you have not seen any pictures of him, Dom is like 6'7", 6'8". He is a tall, muscular man. So I would say his
Good looking, muscular
yes,
man as
he is
well.
a very good looking man. His cosplays are on point.
Yes, they are.
But
They're fantastic.
his would probably be super strength. Christian, I think Christian is more down to himself, more, he's very kind hearted, very sweet, but keeps to himself a lot. And he's an engineer, so I would put him as like a super smart like tech. He can make things for you.
Yeah, sure.
Hunter is also very to himself. He's the youngest of the group, and so he would be like kind of the protege to Christian on learning how to make things, learning doing that stuff. So he would also be like the smarter one. I would say like Josh is probably the most similar to me. And so I would say his would probably be like, I would put us as like the Cap and Bucky of the group. Again, I don't want to say that like I don't want to say like I'm the leader of the group, but like if you follow us on social media, it's all me.
It's probably you. Yeah.
It's so I would say like, my favorite superhero is Thor. So like something along the lines of that, and then Josh should probably be like a Spider-Man type. Like he's quirky, but he's smart as well. He knows how to talk. He works for a radio show, so like yeah, that would be our group.
Mm-hmm. I'd love to say that I would be Spider-Man, but I'm definitely not quick-witted enough to be Spider-Man. So it's unfortunate, but here we are. Well, now you guys know a little bit about Beyond the Fandom and JT. So thank you so much for that. That was awesome.
Absolutely.
And you successfully navigated the Infinity Gauntlet. Congratulations. Zane has not put chloroform over your mouth yet, so you must have successfully passed it. So congratulations. For those of you guys, again, who are looking to know a little bit more about JT and Beyond the Fandom, go check out our Patreon exclusive portion of this episode. Lots of fun stuff to learn about him and Beyond the Fandom. And we'll put links to Beyond the Fandom's stuff in our show notes as well, so you guys can just go click on them and go check them out. Got a couple things that we're going to talk about the rest of this episode. Two big ones. Number one is The Bad Batch, which just premiered this month. And number two is The Last of Us, which came out last Saturday. Or Sunday? Was it Sunday? Sunday, because it comes out tomorrow. Yeah, that's it. So two big things that we're going to talk about. The first one we are going to discuss is The Bad Batch. So this is Bad Batch Season 2. For those of you guys who are not familiar with The Bad Batch, it's a spinoff of the Clone Wars animated Star Wars series. And man, this show was fantastic. Season 1 was incredible. We are going to get into spoiler territory. So we want to make sure, if you have not seen the first 4 episodes of Bad Batch, we're going to put that spoiler bumper right here. So there's already been 4 episodes of Bad Batch. We're just going to kind of zoom through them quick, talk about, kind of recap them generally. but we're going to dive deep into The Last of Us after that. So that's going to be kind of the meat to this episode. If you guys want to skip ahead to that, we'll try to put some time markers in the show notes as well. So, so Bad Batch. Also, we want to make sure that if you are guys listening to the Infinity Bros podcast for the first time, we want you to know about our rating system. So we'll put that bumper right here. So now that I've got that stuff all out of the way, we're finally going to dive into the Bad Batch. Bad Batch has been incredible, season 1. Zane, I'm going to let you give us a little bit of your thoughts on season 1 before we start diving into season 2. What did you think of season 1? What was your hype going into season 2?
Well, I love season 1. Like, I mean, like, Star Wars is such a expansive, like, universe that, like, there's so many stories you can tell. And even when you get into some, like, of the mediums that you feel like, oh, there's, you know, there's not a story to tell here, they find ways to, like, nah, we're gonna get a story for you here. And so, like, the Bad Batch was just an interesting concept, like, just this idea of, like, hey, here's these clones that just don't fit in. It's legit, it's a bad batch of clones, but we're still gonna, like, purpose them. So you're like, okay, that's still, there's something here. And then as, like, season 1 progresses, just to find out how, you see them work as a team and how everyone has their specific strengths, and just how they incorporate into the universe they're in was very well done. Personally, I love being able to watch a show that they went back to that original Clone Wars animation. Like, I
Yes.
still wish
So
they would
good
have
to go
done.
back to
I
that.
wish they would have done Rebels in this animation style. That's still my biggest
Oh,
complaint for
agreed.
Rebels.
Agreed.
So, like, it's just fun to just have that animation in this storytelling again. But yeah, you get through season 1 and you're just like, it still, through one season, it got you to that point of you're kind of feeling like you're caring about these characters a little bit, because it's kind of hitting you that, like, these are kind of the outcasts, like, these are kind of the, hey, we're just going to send you on suicide missions or these things, and you're like, it's not as deep as what you got from watching, the whole expanse of the Clone Wars and those things you got from, watching Rex, and so, all of that, but, like, compress that down into one season. Like, I thought they did a good job of compressing what you had from the whole run of Clone Wars into one season of Bad Batch. And so
Yeah.
you get through the first season of Bad Batch and you're just like this is a cool medium to continue telling this story from this particular part in the Star Wars universe. So once you got through season 1 and coming into season 2, like, I was super excited. Like, yeah, just keep giving me more Bad Batch. Like, absolutely. But then it was like, there was no promo or anything for
No.
season
Yeah.
2. Like,
Yeah.
it just
Basically
came,
nothing. I mean, I
like,
think we got a trailer way back in like summer
right.
last year.
But,
But
like,
like
no
that's
one,
pretty much it.
right. There was, like, no one talking about it. There was nothing. And then, yeah, like, we talked about it during, like, the Stanleys. Like, Jarrett was like, wait a second, did you guys see that Bad Batch drop its first 2 episodes? And, like,
Yep.
that night after it was done, I went and watched them, because I was like, I
Wait.
got it.
They
It's Bad
did?
Batch. Right.
Yeah.
And it's just been that continuation from, yeah, we're 4 episodes in. I'd say, I mean, we've had the one filler episode, which is the most recent one, but even, like, it's just kept that going. Like, the episode 3 is one of the coolest episodes that of both seasons so far. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun, because it was, I think, the best stories sometimes are the ones you didn't realize you needed or wanted, but now that you get it and it's a competent and good story that draws you in, like, those are the ones
Yeah.
that surprise you the most, and that's 100% what Bad Batch is.
Agreed. Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with everything you're saying there. We'll get a little bit deeper into the episodes in a minute here, but JT, I also want to hear your thoughts on going into season 2. What you thought about season 1 and your hype for season 2?
So with Bad Batch in general, when they debuted in Clone Wars, I was like, "Yep, I need a spinoff. Give me this group is amazing. They have unique skills. They're not like the rest, but they're still pretty cool. Like, they're the outcasts." And so I was like, "I need a spinoff show." And guess what? We got it. And then we started watching season 1, and I was like, okay, these are really cool. But then I want to say there was some point in season 1 where I just forgot to stop. Like, I just stopped watching it. And again, it's one of those shows, like you mentioned, Isaac, where there's not a lot of hype behind it. Like, the episode will come out, you'll hear people talk about it that day, and then it's done. And then nobody talks about it until it comes out. When you have like a live action show, people will talk about it up until the next episode, or up at the end. They'll have a longer conversation. So for me, when I forgot, or when I stopped watching it, I think I was doing some stuff with like moving in or whatever, and I was like, okay, I'll get back into it. So I rewatched the entire season before season 1 happened, around the Christmas time, and I just remembered how much I really enjoyed this show. Zane, like you said, the animation, it is the best, like the absolute best. And I'm glad they stuck with it. You can tell that in season 1 and season 2, they made everyone like just become better of themselves almost. Like, Omega has this like more, leader type. Like, she's still the young one. She's still, well, the young one, I quote unquote. But she has this, like, she still has a young mentality, but she's still like, we got to go do this because it's what they would do, or we got to help them because they need help. And so I love that aspect about it. And all the characters have something unique. Season 2 has been such a joy to watch. I watch it every day at work whenever, it rolls around every Wednesday. And so, they're fun. I think I like this past episode 4. I mean, episode 3, like you said, Zane, was really interesting, and I love that one so much. But something about episode 4 just kind of sits really well with me, just knowing like the character growth that they're going through. And that's something that I feel like season 2 is going to be doing this, throughout the run, is growing these characters into, because I believe, I don't want to, I'm not saying this is 100% true, but I heard they were thinking about a third season, potentially. And if they do that, then that's when they'll start to really hammer in some things. But I need to see like some growth between, Wrecker and Tech, which we kind of got that in the last one. Especially with Hunter, like, I want to see his growth, because he's got, I vibe with him really well. And just some of these other, Echo, we've kind of got with Echo a little bit in Clone Wars, and a little bit with his, kind of coming uppings in season 1. But just also having those connections with the Clone Wars show and with Star Wars in the whole, like having Cody and Rex coming back, and hearing all these other characters and stuff. So season 2 so far has been amazing, and I can't wait till the next episode.
Yeah, definitely agree with all of that as well. I mean, I absolutely, I'm a sucker for literally anything Star Wars. So like this, I'm definitely going to watch everything that comes out.
Right.
I don't know if Brad Batch is going to make my best TV shows of 2023, but hey, man, like, I think they've handled the show about as well as you could expect them to, with like you said, the spin-off from Clone Wars. And like, Clone Wars, we get this, like, I think it was like a 4-episode arc with them. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how Clone Wars did things. They did a 4-episode arc of random characters like here and there, and it was awesome. We got tons of like cameos throughout the Star Wars universe through those arcs and stuff like that. This is just another one of those arcs, and it was so cool how they turned that into its own show. And I think you hit on a really good point of, I mean, these characters are, I mean, they're pretty messed up, like, backgrounds, and they've been through a ton of crap, and they still have a decent amount of growing to do. Which, I mean, you mentioned Hunter. Those first couple episodes, I mean, he's obviously this awesome, like, badass, like, leader dude, but those first couple episodes, like, he's getting pretty agitated with the people in his crew. He's kind of like short with them. You kind of get the sense that something is going on, and we don't really know what that is yet. But then, like you said, we start to get some of that, like, personal interactions with Tech and Wrecker in episode 4 and episode 3, where, I mean, I will say episode 3 probably is my favorite episode in season 1 and 2 combined. Like, Commander Cody coming back is going to be an incredible arc in this season. I am so excited for that. And it was just like perfect how they set everything up. Like you kind of see him and you're like, man, he's part of this like empire thing. Like, wow, I can't believe he got sucked into that. Like he didn't resist like all the other clones did and stuff like that, or not all the other clones, but like the good ones or whatever,
Right.
And then all of a sudden he starts like putting little seeds of like, I don't think what we're doing is right here. And you kind of get the sense that he's been thinking that for a while. But man, the build up on 3 was incredible, and I can't wait for him to come back and either be a large part of the story as just like an adjacent like character, or even potentially join the Bad Batch for a short time or something like that. I don't know, but I'm excited to see more Commander Cody as well. That's gonna be awesome. But yeah, I mean, I think I would give that episode 6 out of 6 for sure. I'd probably give the first 2 episodes a 5 out of 5 out of 6. The last one, I would say 4. I did enjoy it for sure. Definitely seemed like a filler episode to me though. Like it was just it kind of seems random. I mean, maybe it's gonna, come into play, in the future of the season as well. But and it was hilarious to see Tech at the end when he wins the race and he's just like acknowledging the people that are cheering for him and stuff like that. Is like, oh man, that's something that Tech would like never even think of before. And now he's in this situation and you're like, wow, this is really cool. We're seeing growth in really different ways in all of these characters. So I really still enjoyed it, but I think it definitely seemed like, I don't know, it's famous on our podcast. I don't know if Zayne, I don't remember Zayne at what side you're on, but in the Mandalorian, the ice spider episode,
oh yeah,
Jarrett and I called that a filler episode, and the rest of the bros lost their minds. They're like, oh my gosh, it's the best episode ever. It was like, oh, okay, it was really good, it was cool, but
it was fun.
It was fun.
Giant ice spider. What more do you want?
It didn't really lead anywhere though. That's the thing.
Right.
That's what makes it a filler episode. So, but obviously we don't have the rest of the show at our fingertips yet, so we'll have to see where that episode fits in the rest of the show. So going back though, season 1, give me more of any moments of execute Order 66 in the Star Wars universe at all. Like we've gotten a ton of them, but seeing that in season 1 of Bad Batch was like, this is why I'm a Star Wars fan. Like this was it was so cool to see. And then we got the Rebels like reference with Kanan and wow, that was probably, man, that's probably my favorite part of Bad Batch now that I'm thinking about it, because I was like jacked when that happened. That was so cool. But man, they've done a fantastic job with the series, and I'm expecting them this is the series that it's like, it's not going to blow your mind, but it is a solid. They put a lot of heart and soul and work into this series. It's not just some random spin-off cash grab, obviously, because they didn't advertise it at all. But like, it's not something that they are just doing just to please the fans. Like this is a project that they are really putting work into, which I appreciate. So any other comments on Bad Batch episodes 1 through 4? Definitely go check that out. Disney Plus. Great, fantastic series so far. And now I'm blanking on how long that series is supposed to run. I think
season 1 was like 16 episodes long. Maybe it's the same for season 2. I can't remember, but for me, I just enjoy it because it gives you something, because Star Wars doesn't pump out content like Marvel does. Like, I mean, Marvel's the king of doing that, but like for Star Wars, it's like there's one continuous timeline, and then these are just fillers, which are needed because there's a lot left out. I mean, there is a ton of stuff left out, and so these are like, okay, what's happening during this time? And so it's really cool to see that. But one thing that I really like about it, and I think I think it's helpful for people is like when you have these animated shows, you don't want to spend 45 minutes on it. Like people will start to die down on it. And so I like that 20-25 minute
Yeah.
like length.
That is a nice, like, short, like, pop, just
Yep.
get my fill, move on to the next one,
Exactly.
or get my fill, move on, do whatever I'm doing in my day type of thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely kind of nice. So it
Yeah.
is 16
Okay.
along with season 1 as well. So that'll run for another couple months here. So excited to look forward to that. Let's see.
Because
Zane, any other notes on Bad Batch?
Not really. Like I it's fun kind of hitting those same points too. It's to have that Star Wars story, but it's a good enough show that it's fun, that like it's something to look forward to every week. It's just
Right.
that quick 20 minutes, you go about your day or whatever, but it's just like it's a good enough show that it can hold enough of your interest to be like, oh yeah, this is coming out. Oh yeah, I got a new episode to watch. Like it's enough
Yeah.
to give you something to look
And
forward to.
and the Star Wars universe is so massive too, and just the fact that we're getting more content to fill that space and like fill in the gaps in what we know in the Star Wars universe, I'm all for it. Give me everything. I'm going to consume it. I will probably enjoy it. So absolutely thrilled that we continue to get content. So all right, boys, let's move on to the meat of the show, The Last of Us. Last of Us TV series by HBO Max by Neil Druckmann, who is the writer of the original video game PlayStation Naughty Dog story, and Craig Mazin, who is adapting it for television. Joel and Ellie, pair connected through the harshness of the world they live in, are forced to endure brutal circumstances and ruthless killers on a trek across post-pandemic America. It just dropped last Sunday, and it's got a phenomenal cast. Pedro Pascal as Joel, Bella Ramsey as Ellie, Gabriel Luna as Tommy Miller. I mean, those are kind of the big names that we saw in episode 1, but I mean, Nick Offerman is listed as Bill. He's going to come up probably episode 2, 3, maybe. I mean, there's a lot of big names in this show, and I'm absolutely thrilled for it. So to get a little bit of background on where we're at, Zane, you've played the game, and tell us just like what your thoughts were on the game, just in general. We won't get quite into the show yet. I want to kind of dwell on just the background of this show first. So
Right. So the game itself is a really, it's an experience to play through. So like I guess more on the background, like growing up I was always on like Xbox. I always had Xbox growing up. So I didn't actually get like a PlayStation until I was my first PlayStation was a PS4. And so like I didn't actually like play The Last of Us when it came out on the 3. And so like when I actually played through it, I think it was on the remastered for the 4. But playing through that game, it was just like, well, I think it's a testament to Naughty Dog as well in their storytelling. But this is one of the best story driven narratives of a video game that you can play. And so, not that I want to get off the top on that, but it's just like I knew when they were like, "Hey, we're going to make this into a TV show." Like, if anything had a chance, like everyone always knows, video game adaptations, but like knowing that you're like, this has a chance to be something because of how strong the narrative already is, how strong the story is. Like, you play that game, and it's one of those games. Like, there's moments that you got to set the controller down, and you're just like, dang, this is some heavy stuff going on. And it was the same thing after beating the game. I remember having to set my controller down, and just like most of the time you beat a game and you're holding square to speed through the credits, or you're just trying to get back to the
yeah,
like this was one that like I set the controller down, just let the credits play, and just kind of had to sit back, hands on my head, just kind of like you just kind of process everything, because you're just like, this was such a powerful story. And like this is like, so many people come into video games that like it's a fun experience, and it's just to relieve stress, whatever you want, from your Call of Duties to regular there's so much just action. There's so much stuff going on the screen, but then you get a game like this that actually hits you in the feels like you just,
Mhm.
watched a movie that actually has
Right.
that impact, and you're just like, this is what this is that kind of that next level gaming that
Right.
if people that haven't experienced this, highly recommend it. Like it, yeah, just it's like playing. I don't want to quite say it's like playing through a movie because there's better analogs of that, but like, yeah, just if you've never played The Last of Us the game, highly recommend it because it's an experience all
Mhm.
in and of its own. Like
Yeah.
it's not just playing a video game.
Yeah, absolutely. I come at it from a similar angle. Didn't actually get a PlayStation until I got my PlayStation 4, but it was a free PS Plus game at some point way back, probably when I got my PlayStation. Threw it in my library. I was like, cool. Like I'll maybe play it at some point. And I heard a lot of good things about it. I was like, sweet. All right, I'll have to check it out. Finally got around to checking it out, and I was like, wow, this is probably the best post-apocalyptic, zombie game or whatever you want to, whatever category you want to throw it in there. I was like, this is this is impressive. The storyline is incredible. The gameplay is also fantastic, but I mean, you kind of hit on something. Like there are really heavy moments that you just kind of like or sit in. The game like forces you to just like slow down. And I think a lot of video games are just like action, action, action. Like, oh yeah, like this game like forces you to slow down and be like, all right, we gotta take this slow. We
Mm-hmm.
gotta think about what we're doing. Like we can't just blaze through, light everything on fire, and run through the levels type thing. Which I'm terrible at stealth games, so I was tempted to do, but never works. Never works. But yeah, I mean, this game it's an incredible game. So I'm on the same page as you, and we'll get into it in a little bit. But I do want to talk to JT. You came at this from a little bit different angle. So why don't you talk about your experience with the game so far?
Right. So, Zane, you said you grew up with like Xbox and stuff. So did I. I had a PlayStation. I would always play my Xbox over my PlayStation. Again, it was one of those like all my friends had Xboxes, PlayStation was kind of the side.
Right.
But when I got my PS5, it took me years to get it, but I finally got it, and a lot of my friends,
Congratulations.
a lot of my friends are like, get this game, and that was one of the games that I was like, people said, hey, this is what it's about. I'm not a big horror type game player. Like I'd rather do like a Fortnite or a Call of Duty where it's just stuff like that. But then about a month ago, I would say, I saw a buddy of mine sent me a trailer to the game or to the show and was like, watch this. It looks amazing, and I enjoy The Walking Dead. So like this, he said, it kind of has that feel, but it's completely different. It's the same type of adaptation of post-apocalyptic, pandemic-esque world that we're living in. And so I watched the trailer. I was like, oh my God, this is great. And then I was like, wait, that title sounds familiar. So I went on the PlayStation Plus store and I saw The Last of Us, and I was like, okay, let me download this game. And so last Friday, honestly, a couple weeks ago, I downloaded the game, started playing it, was streaming it, and the people in the chat were like, if this is your first time playing, they were mind blown that I've never played this game before. And they were telling me like how it was, how what the game's all about, and I've played it almost every day since, and it is hands down. I'm a buddy of mine told me, I told him where I was at in the game, and he said, "Oh, you're like halfway through it." And I was like, "It's the best story game that I've ever played. Like storyline wise, it is fantastic." And again, you know, when I was worried about that adaptation from this to that, because like we talked about in the Patreon show, there's a lot that are good, but some that are terrible. And this was the one that I was very iffy on because again, The Walking Dead has done this. I never wanted people to be like, oh, this is just a rip off of The Walking Dead. And that was, I'm not gonna lie, that was my mindset going into it, because again, I'd never played the game. But now, having played the game and only halfway through it, it hands down, it is totally different from what The Walking Dead is. And I don't know, guys. I just really enjoyed the game. That, like, my love for this game thus far has really got my excitement level for the show just like every single time up and up. I've watched the first episode twice. Like, that's it, it's that good. The similarities between the two are phenomenal. The differences are also really good. You take these, like, we'll talk about it in a bit, I'm sure, but like the opening of the show, not even in the game, but you need it. Like, you need this to understand what the whole story is about. So stuff like that is what I really enjoy about it. And like, I'm excited for the episode 2 to come out. Like, I cannot wait. And from what I've heard from people who have gotten early screeners, they said this episode is crazy. And I'm like I get my excitement level because, again, from playing that game and knowing, okay, this is what happened. This is as far as we're gotten in episode 1. What's going to happen next? Is this scene going to come? Like, oh, is that character going to be introduced? Are we going to see this scene? And I'm like, in my head, it gets me a little nervous because, again, we know what's coming.
Right.
And
so, as somebody who is in the middle of that, this is kind of a topic we talked about a little bit on the Patreon version, but would you recommend going and playing the game right now like you are? Because we actually have a mutual friend who asked us, should he go play the game, or should he just watch through the show? And as Zane and I, who have both played the game, and mind you, mine is not fairly recently, like I remember the game and stuff like that, but like, when we're seeing these on social media, there's like shots for shots, exact same shots that are in the video game translated to the silver screen. And like, it's pretty incredible how they're doing some of this stuff. But I mean, I don't exactly recall a lot of those shots, but going back and looking at that was like, wow, they are really, really putting a lot of time and effort into adapting this. So what would you recommend as somebody who's in the middle of that? Would you say just watch the show through, then go play the game? Would you say jump in right now and go play the game?
Honestly, I would say jump in and watch and like kind of do like a side by side almost. I know that's really difficult
play
to
through
do
at the same time.
Yeah, I mean it's very difficult because where I'm at right now, I mean, in the game, again, I'm halfway through the game, and episode 1 only, like, I think we got midway through episode 1 was like the first 10 minutes of the game. And I was like, okay, so they're adding stuff into it, but they're taking it as the the scenes go along. And so, like, everything was adding up from episode 1 into the story of the game on PlayStation or whatnot. And so, like, to me, I personally like to see the similarities and the differences. And so, like, it was really funny because my wife and I, we were sitting there watching it last Sunday, and a certain scene happened, and she kind of tapped me and she was like, I saw that on your stream. I watched that. I know, like,
that's amazing.
She goes, I know what's about to happen. And I was like, I just turned to her and I said, I think so too. And then, like, it happened.
That's amazing.
It happened. And I was like, to me, that's really cool to know. But also the differences, like, we get a whole new intro to the show, learning about what this, disease and this fungi and stuff and all this other stuff happening. Just from the background of Sarah. Didn't get a single lick of her background in the game, but this took us about 20 minutes of, like, just fast-paced background that we needed to know to connect to that character. Because a lot of people who are watching this show, they've played the game, so they have that connective vibe with Sarah, but not like this. We get to see her, like, at school, going to people's house, baking, like, making pancakes with her father, getting the watch, like, everything is, like, hitting you. And I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was like, but don't you feel that, like, you kind of have a love-hate relationship with that, because they bring you so much into, like, understanding and loving the character of Sarah, but what's going to happen. Like, get back in the back of your mind, you're like, Okay, yeah, like
Yeah.
I know. So
Gosh, like for people who have never experienced that,
Nope.
that must have been just a devastating first episode to watch.
right,
Just oh man, I mean it's hard to watch it again, even though I did know what was gonna happen, but it's just like, oh man,
yeah,
oh that's tough.
exactly. But no, honestly, to completely answer your question, I would say, I mean, play the game and then watch the show, or I mean, if you want to do it simultaneously, then by all means, that's what I'm doing. So yeah, it wouldn't hurt.
Yeah. So you mentioned the opening. So there's a cold open to the show, which I mean, assuming like we've already given plenty of spoilers here. I'm guessing if you've come this far, you've obviously watched this episode. But this cold open opens. It's like 1968 or something. It's this scientist that is talking about potentially what could happen if a fungal like infection spread across the world, and I don't know about you guys. I heard some before. I caught some spoilers on Twitter before I watched the episode of people talking about this cold open scene, and some people saying that it kind of took the mystery of the disease like in the game The Last of Us out of it. But this was a bone chilling intro that
Hmm.
I think set up this episode perfectly. Zane, what did you think of that cold open? Uh-oh. Did we
I
lose
don't know.
Zane?
Did we lose him?
We must have. I don't see him. He's frozen on my end.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, yep,
Nope.
he's off.
There he goes.
That's okay. He'll jump back in
Okay.
eventually here.
Okay.
Um, so we'll just keep talking though. Oh, there he is.
There you go.
Zane. Zane. There
I was
you
like,
are.
what in the world?
Well, actually, it was pretty good. Like, I think you were frozen for a while I was talking there, and then I asked you a question, and you were just frozen. So, did you hear everything though?
Yeah. I don't know
Okay.
what happened there, but yeah, I caught
All right.
caught what JD
Yeah.
was saying.
So Zane, I'll start over with my question here. So Zane, what did you think of that cold open?
The cold open is really good because it set up everything you need to know going into the show. Not only the cold open, but even that first 20 minutes that we got with Sarah, because like in the game, it just hits you and you start going, and then as you through the course of the game, it fills that back in. Whereas with a show, that's one of those differences. I feel like with a show, you kind of have to start with that information because it gets
Right.
annoying when you don't get that information till episode 3. Well, you might have lost people by then, so you kind of have to
Right.
establish that more at the beginning. And so I feel like they did a really good job of establishing that at the beginning, getting you to fall in love with Sarah, and then yeah, everyone else who played the game knew exactly what was going to happen. But like if you're just watching the show, like they need you to do establish that like, hey, this is going to be an impactful moment, and then you're going to get blindsided if you don't know what's coming.
And here's an interesting note. That's a great point, Zane. And this is why I think a lot of people did not connect with Halo, because with Master Chief they did a lot of that where we didn't know anything about him, and then they were doing these kind of flashbacks like scattered throughout the series, and it's like I don't know anything about this guy and I don't care about him at this point. And then, there was plenty of issues with the Halo show, but that was one reason why I think people did not like connect with Master Chief right away and like really, grasp onto that series. But I think that's a great point. There's a difference in the medium. Like there's some things you just can't do on screen that you can do in a video game.
Right, because
You can just show different things.
Right, because as you're playing a video game, like as you're actually controlling your character, like some of that story stuff kind of goes in the background because I got to go through this fight scene, I got to go through this, so you can kind of run out the scene. But like in a movie, you got to get that more in detail because people are just watching this. Like you can't put that to the back of your mind because you got to play through a 15-minute fight scene or whatever. Like
Yeah.
So
well, and so much world building in video games is done in just passing by stuff because a lot of gamers don't care about that stuff, so they just skip that stuff. So games make it easy to get information about your world by doing exploring, interacting with everything. That way, if you don't want to do it, you can just skip it. But when you're walking, going along, sometimes, and this is not specifically The Last of Us, but like other games, like you can hear conversations between different characters
Mm-hmm.
and get information about them, get information about the universe that you're in through those conversations, but they're not focal points of the game. But in a movie, you have to make them a focal point in order for the audience to understand the world building that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's they're two different mediums. You kind of have to play them a little bit differently. But I will tell you, when I was watching the first episode, I was incredibly impressed that I got the exact same feelings that I got while playing the Last of Us game. Exact same feelings. Like they nailed the vibe down in episode 1, at least. I'm hoping for the rest of the show it remains the same, but holy man, did they do a good job at translating everything that's going on, the tone of the game to the series. Just I'm absolutely impressed with this. And this, honestly, this is not a show that I thought I was going to be super hyped about. Like I loved the game. I think it was really cool, but I'm not like a Last of Us apologist. I don't think it's the best game on the planet or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say it is probably one of the video games that lends itself best to a story, narrative on a movie or a TV show. So the fact that they have taken this and they are absolutely making it their own is just incredible to me. And I'm so hyped for the rest of it. Did not expect to be. Like I went into it knowing that it had a lot of good reviews, everybody was loving it and stuff like that, but my hype level was not like up there with the rest of everybody else. Now it is. I'm there. I'm with everybody else. The show is going to be fantastic. So, but yeah, I mean, Pedro Pascal nails it as gosh, now I'm blanking on his name. What's his face? Joel. Yep, nails it as Joel. I mean, you guys mentioned we got like a lot more background on Sarah than we do in the game initially, anyways.
Yeah.
Which was cool. And they threw in so many awesome little tidbits. Like we already mentioned the several shot for shots, and actually, I'll throw in a link to Jbucks, good friend of the show. He actually did a side by side like TikTok showing like the shots from the games to the movies. Incredible. And just like a minute TikTok or something like that with the quick shots of all those things. But the t-shirt that she is wearing in the TV show is the same t-shirt that she's wearing in the game, which there's just the attention to detail that they put into the show is just fantastic. So Pedro Pascal.
Well, I was going to say there was one scene that was like, I mean, again, everybody has like put it next to the game, is where Joel and Ellie go to like his apartment or whatever, and he lays down on the couch. I mean, it's just the way he's laying and her walking over and says, "Your watch is broken," and it's like just again the mannerisms, the lines, like it's right on top of each other. It's great. And then, but the difference is too is we didn't know about we didn't hear anything about the radio in the video game, and she's like, what's the 80s? What's this? And then she starts singing a song, and she's like, she catches Joel like getting upset, or she's like trouble, and she like is starting to figure out who Joel is, but you won't get to know that in the game until like a little bit longer. Fun fact, I think this is true. I'm hoping it is. I heard it from a couple people, but the actress that played Marlene, I think that's her name, that gave Ellie to Joel and Tess, is the same actress that voiced Marlene in the game.
Really?
I believe so.
Looking that up right now.
Yeah,
so her name is Merle Dandridge.
Yeah, if you watch like after the episode's done, it runs some behind the scenes stuff, and they touch on that because
confirmed on IMDb. She is the voice of Marlene in the video game.
Because they had her do the voice, and they came back and awesome. they basically asked her like, "Do you want to play this character? Like we're doing it in the movie," and she was like, "Absolutely."
Gosh, they did everything right. They did everything
they
right.
Really did. They really did.
Okay, so there were some mad fanboys before the show dropped that Bella Ramsey, the actress who plays Ellie, does not look like Ellie in the video game. I don't care at all
I don't.
because she is fantastic so far as Ellie. But I just wanted to see if you guys had any thoughts on that.
That's no, that people get mad on the stupidest reasons. That's so dumb. Like I saw the same.
Agreed.
I saw the same people say the difference between Sarah in the game and the show. It's like, stop.
Oh yeah,
Just shut up. Like when I see those people, it doesn't get me to the point where I'm like boiling mad. It just gets me to like, are you really that dumb? Like, really? Because no, you're not gonna take things
nerds find
verbatim.
really weird stuff to freak out about, man. I don't know why. It's weird.
Yeah,
My only thing on it, it's not a beef or anything. My only thing was just I didn't know how she would handle the character, just because we've really only seen her a little bit in Game of Thrones. So it was
Right.
more of like, I didn't, and after one episode, it was pretty good. So I'm like, I'm hoping that continues. But that was more of my thing of just like she doesn't look like the character, whatever. But it was more of, well, can she get the same feeling? Can she act like the character?
Right.
I think that was
Exactly.
more of my coming into it, just because she's not
Yeah.
really in a lot. So
Mhm.
as long as she can
Yeah, it's
still
kind of hard. Right.
hit the feeling of Ellie,
Yeah.
fine.
Only seeing her in Game of Thrones is my experience as well. But like like after episode 1, I have no concerns. I thought she did a fantastic job. She's already, like kind of, I don't know. In the game, again, this has been a while since I played it, but I remember her as like kind of a arrogant, but in a charming way, and like bratty, not necessarily bratty's not like the right word for it, but like she had an attitude.
Mhm.
And I think she nailed that in this episode. Like I think she did a really good job of portraying that same vibe that she had in the video game. So yeah, again, I have no complaints after seeing her in episode 1.
Yeah, to me, she did a great job. I wasn't too worried. Again, like with me not knowing the game ever until just now, and then seeing like, yeah, Ellie in the game is just like she looks like a young kid, while Bella looks like an older kid. Like,
Teenager.
yeah,
Right.
like it doesn't really matter to me, honestly. And I've never seen Game of Thrones, so like I didn't know that she was gonna be, or that she was in there. So like I wasn't real familiar
Didn't
with
have any
her.
like
Yeah,
positions to or
yeah.
anything. Yeah.
And so like
Sometimes
so
that
far,
helps, honestly,
yeah, so far
because
so
you
good
don't
for
have a
me.
different, yeah, and you don't have like a different idea of them in your head. So sometimes
Mhm.
that's not really a terrible thing. So one other thing that I want to know is, like, we already mentioned quite a few like shot for shot like things. I mean, we get through the episode, um, really just fantastic. Everything, action, suspense, like character interactions, everything is great so far. And we get to the end, and I wanted to specifically shout out the last shot. Was that gave me chills when the camera pans up and you see the building, like, like the building falling on itself, iconic from the game. Like the game, you have this really cool scene where you're walking into the city, and I'm sure you have experienced that recently, JT, where you're like walking towards that building structure that is falling on each other, and it's just like in the game it's just massive and like just like awe inspiring almost. And they absolutely nailed that shot. And in that shot, I did not notice this during watching the episode, but I saw it on social media later. There is actually a gosh, now I'm forgetting a clicker.
Yeah, the clicker.
There's a clicker on the top of a building that like kind of snaps at them or whatever, like does its like movements.
Mhm.
And man, I haven't played the game probably in like 6 or 7 years, but when I saw the animation of the clicker on that building, I was like, that's the game animation. They like straight up stole that animation from the game.
Right.
That was incredible. I was very impressed that they snuck that little snippet detail in there, and I didn't even notice it during the watching. Like, just just incredible. I was very impressed by that final scene. So yeah, man. I For me, this episode is a 6 out of 6. Like they did everything perfectly. Loved the cold open. Loved all the callbacks to the show, and everything that they had to deviate from, they're doing it in a fantastic way. So I have no qualms about this episode specifically, and I have very high hopes moving forward. JT, what was your rating of this episode?
I would give it a 6 out of 6 as well. Obviously, is a very good start, like a phenomenal start. Like of course, there's 9 more episodes to go, so like we'll see. We'll come back to at episode 10. What do you think of episode 1? Like it could potentially all these episodes just be 6 out of 6, 6 out of 6.
Right.
But like, but for a opening to a adaptation from a video game, it nailed it right on the head. And I think it couldn't have gone any perfect. I mean, or any more perfect. It did what it was supposed to do. And the differences that it added, the little subtle small things, made it a better story for people who have never played the game. My wife has never played the game. She had no interest in playing the game, of course. She loves the show. She's in love with it. So like it's right on there with it. So
and I've heard that from several sources that like people that don't play video games watch this episode and they were like, this is an awesome show. Like so they're not, I mean, it's hard because like obviously they are obviously very, very painstakingly trying to please Last of Us fans.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not doing it in a way that is fan servicey or detracting from the production or anything that's going on in the episode, which we've seen obviously in various iterations of media. So but like yeah, I mean I think that's awesome that your wife was like, yeah, I actually want to watch this.
Because I was asking her today, I was like, hey, do you want to watch the second episode with me? And she was like, yeah, absolutely. I was like, okay, cool. I was like, you may see some of the stuff that was on my stream, but like, she was like, oh, that's fine. I like that. So again, it's one of those, and Zane, before you get into your, thoughts and stuff, can we quickly touch upon the opening credits? How they were awesome. Like just like
again, so yeah, we've been talking about how like they've nailed the vibe of the video game. Like I literally thought I was opening the start screen for the video game when the opening credits came up. I was like, wow, they did it. They did it. I don't even know what to say at that point. I was like, oh my gosh.
With the guitar, like the strumming of the guitar and like just the
different. And then it like just kind of panning around that empty room. Like exactly like the title screen for the game. It's just like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Incredible. Love that. All right, Zane, what was your rating of episode 1 of The Last of Us?
Yeah, it's 6 out of 6. Like I hope everyone else snap it. No, I hope anyone else who ever wants to make like a video game adaptation into a TV show, which I feel like that's probably more than like get it more of a TV show rather than a movie.
Right.
Like write this down. Like this is how you do it. Now I get I get that you had Neil Druckmann and he was the creator with the show, and then he was heavily involved with the show process too. But like, take notes on this because this is what people want. Like this is how you do a video game adaptation into a TV show. And granted, yeah, it's one episode, but I'm just banking on that it's not going to go completely off the rails, by what we have on the episode. Right. But yeah, no, like I'm very excited to, I played the game. Granted, like I played the game long enough, like a long time ago or long enough ago now that the show is a good refresher. So like I know the basis of most of the things that happen, but like now the show can kind of fill in the pieces. And so it's not that's necessarily that I'm going to be going in cold and it's a brand new experience, but it's that refresher experience of like it's been a while, so you kind of retouch on some of these points. So I'm excited to just go on this journey and to see and to continue, because I know that's going to be a continued thing, to see hey, here are the parallels from the game to the movie or the show, all these different things they do. And like, I think that's going to be the enjoyment or the game within the game to see, hey, what did they do the same? What did they do differently? And, you know, that's something that you can continue to talk about. Like, hey, I loved how they did this. I love how they portrayed this. Because, yeah, as we've even hit a bit on this episode, like, there are some things that work well in a game that you have to change a little bit for a TV show. And to see how well they can flip those around and see how well that, you know, they can take and maneuver those things while still telling a story. But I guess I'll end one of my favorite things that it's been different from what we had from the game, and so some of the stuff I've heard people talking about, even when they were making it. So in the game, a huge point of like how the infection spreads is through spores, so it's all like airborne. And so in the game, they're always wearing gas masks. But it became a running bit that they didn't want another show where Pedro Pascal always had a mask on.
Yeah,
I heard that too just today, actually.
So that was one of those changes they made for the show. They got rid of it, so it's just through the bite. So I mean, there might be some spore like localization stuff, but like in the game, it was like they always had gas masks on when they were out.
Right.
But like,
I think they're gonna find a way, because that was a really like ingrained in my mind part of the video game, is like, you know, every time you walk down into one of those underground tunnels and you see the spores floating around, you gotta put your mask on.
Right.
So I think they're gonna, obviously that's not gonna be exactly the same, but I think they're gonna do a pretty good job of adapting it.
Right. And I assume that's something you can do as a plot device of like, oh, we got to go to this specific area where there's specifically spores. Then you have them put a gas mask on. But like, that's the one difference. Like in the game, they wear gas masks way more often than what we're going to see in the show. Yeah. But that was just the funny bit of just like, we don't want another show where Pedro Pascal's always in a mask.
Poor Pedro, man. It's the year of Pedro Pascal, though, dude. Like Last of Us, and right after Last of Us is done, Mandalorian is right around the corner. I believe that's beginning of March is when that one is premiering.
March 1st.
March 1st, yeah. So, I mean, like, I think this series will be done at the end of February. So, it'll be like right at the end of his Last of Us run. Like, this is going to be Pedro Pascal mainstreaming. Everybody is just, I said this during our Stan Lee's, but I finally got around to watching Massive Weight of Unbearable Talent with Nick Cage and Pedro Pascal. And Pedro Pascal has range, man. Like, he is such a funny guy in that film. Like, he's hilarious. And in these other roles, he's so serious, and he's gonna nail it as Joel. I'm really excited that he is a part of this franchise. So you're Pedro Pascal.
Another little gag that they were talking to Pedro about, Zane. I don't know if you heard this or not, but someone, when they were doing like press for it a little bit, they were asking Bella Ramsey and Pedro if they've ever played the game, and they're like, yeah, you know, we played it, blah, blah, blah. And the interviewer was like, so Pedro, are you going to be crouching down a lot? And he's like, oh no, he's like, you'll probably never see me crouch, maybe just a couple of times. So he was like, but I'm not. He's like, my old knees can't do it. I can't. but it's funny.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Like the differences in the, you know, like in the game, I think you're crouched for like at least 85%.
A large
all the time, game. Right?
You were going behind barrels and walls and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gonna be one thing that I hope that they do in the game, or they do in the show, that again, for those who have played it, like all three of us, the fact that like when you have to go and you grab loot and you have to at least walk around every single, like I want to see that in the game or in the show, just like
grab loot, make them like see them make like bombs with like tape and nails and stuff.
Exactly. Like that's one of those where if you played the game, you understand that you can't just go into a building and not check every single room.
Every single, like, check all the drawers, everything.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Because I made that mistake when I was playing, and a buddy of mine was like, "Hey, go back in that building. Like there's a lot of loot in there." And I was like, "Oh, it's this game. It's this type of game. Like I have to go in each room and grab, and then make it on my way." So like, I hope that's a little bit of Easter egg in there where he's like, yeah, we gotta grab all this loot, and just starts grabbing it and stuff.
Absolutely. Looking forward to many, many Easter eggs from the game. Easter eggs. Like, this is a straight adaptation. I even feel bad saying Easter eggs.
Yeah, right.
So many things are just pulled straight out of the video game. In a world where we have just god-awful adaptations of video game movies and TV series. I mean, most recently, like, obviously we've already talked about Halo, but like Resident Evil has had a show on Netflix, which, I mean, I heard a couple people say they watched the first couple episodes and then just faded off because did you end up watching that, Zane? Did you watch the whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's entertaining for what it is, but like
Sure,
it's so far out. Like, it's its own story. Like, if you watch it, it's like, hey, this is its own story. Fine.
it's not like
But
a great adaptation
right,
of what the Resident Evil games are, and like we've
right.
had, I mean, all the way back to the Super Mario Bros movie, like back in the early 90s. People have been wanting to adapt these video game characters, but how do you take a video game medium and put that onto a screen? And this show has a very good chance to be probably the best video game adaptation to TV or movie of all time. I think, just based off of this first episode. Granted, that is not a very high bar to clear because there's a lot of really bad ones out there. but still, I think that's impressive that we can even suggest that just based on this first episode.
I will say for me personally, I think this ranks maybe like 2A, 2B on the video game, movie, TV adaptation. Top one for me right now until this season. If this season just nails it out of the park every episode, then it'll easily jump to number one. But for me, Sonic, hands down, is the best.
Man, you're talking our language here. Zane and I absolutely love the Sonic movies. So.
Yeah, and then with Sonic 3 coming out, in a few years,
we're starting to turn in the video game adaptations. Thankfully, I think we're starting to get better adaptations as we go.
Yeah,
Halo is a little bit of a setback, but we still have Sonic movies.
Yeah,
and we have The Last of Us now.
Yep.
So,
and then fingers crossed for the Super Mario Bros that's coming out.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, actually, we got some hype behind that. It's really strange how everything has all come together for that movie, but I'm a lot more positive after seeing the trailers that they've put out. It looks incredible. So definitely excited for that one too.
I guess as the final tack on there, because I was just thinking it doesn't follow the games, but like The Witcher was a pretty solid video game adaptation as well.
True, yeah.
It doesn't follow the games, but I just was like, wait a second.
I bet if they let Henry Cavill have more creative input in those shows, they would have followed the games a lot closer. But here we are.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, definitely. I think we're turning the corner. We got some good video game adaptations out here. But Last of Us, again, has a chance to be among the greats in the video game adaptations. So, well, guys, I think it's been a very successful episode talking about Bad Batch and The Last of Us. JT, I just want to take a quick couple minutes here. Why don't you tell us where people can find you, where people can find Beyond the Fandom, and where they can go check out all your stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are on Twitter at Beyond Fandom 1. We are also on Instagram at Beyond_Fandom 1_. Look, when I tell people our usernames, it's so weird.
You don't have to tell me about that, because don't even look up the Infinity Bros Twitter username, man. Like I tried spelling that out for people when we started the podcast, and I gave up because it's unfortunate. Yeah, so I get it.
It's just a weird time, The internet takes it when they do what they want. But we on our Twitter, you can find our link tree in the bio, and you can go to all of our socials there, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, our website. You can find all of our stuff there. That's where I'm at. if I can I should say. Yeah, if you do see a tweet from us from the Beyond the Fandom podcast, it's most likely me. So you'll probably be interacting with myself. So come on over. I love talking to y'all and just talking nerd stuff and whatever. But yeah, this episode has been a lot of fun, gentlemen. It's been a blast. Like I said, long overdue, but glad we got it. Glad we got it. Out of the way, and hopefully y'all can come on our podcast. Or again, it may be just me talking to you guys. We'll never know. So.
Hey, we're okay with that. We're okay with
Absolutely.
that. Yeah, thanks so much for joining us, man. It has been a blast. And for all of you listeners out there, we will have a link in the show notes to JT and all of his Beyond the Fandom stuff, so you can check all of their content out. Thank you also, Zayne, for joining me on today's episode of the Infinity Bros Podcast. It's been a blast.
Absolutely. It's been a fun time.
How was shaking off the rust? You feel like you're right back in the saddle again, or?
I mean, it's like riding a bike. You just get on, you just go. You never really forget it.
Yeah.
You know what?
Zayne
What else?
Riding a bike.
You know what else people don't forget? BD Cooper. So
it's a great point. It's a great point.
Good point. There you go. Is Zayne, DB Cooper, and Loki all wrapped into one? We'll never know.
Maybe.
We'll never know. Yeah. You never know. Well, thank you, listeners, for making us a part of your podcast experience. Wherever you're listening, however you're listening, thank you so much for making us a part of your day. Have an amazing day, evening, or night. We love you 3000. Bye.
Bye.